What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Optimal Physique Development Podcast with your host, myself, Joe Jeffrey, and we have Austin finally back on the podcast. Austin Stout making a reappearance, and it's going to be another regular one from here on out. Today, we've got the legendary Shelby Starnes as our guest. So, Shelby, please, for you guys that haven't heard of Shelby, please give us a little brief introduction of yourself, if you could, please.
Hey, Joe, thanks. Gosh, I thought you guys were going to introduce me. I have to introduce myself.
We can. I can. Nothing too bad.
I guess I'm most well known as a nutrition guy, for contest prep and just any, regular Joe dieting as well. So that's the main thing I do is online diet and training coaching. I was a competitive bodybuilder, competed in the IFBB, and I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's got to put you on the spot there. If you guys, a lot of you guys probably know who Shelby is, and if you don't, some of the UK-based guys here that may not know him, you can find him on social media. There's client photo after client photo. There's plenty of stuff. I think my first encounter was probably back on RX Muscle forums, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that was probably 2007, something like that.
Yeah.
And at the time, if I remember correctly, you competed as the very first time. I remember. I think we're welterweight. Does that sound right?
I started as a middleweight.
Okay, middleweight.
Yeah. But then later on, I ended up doing welterweight once. I sucked down really hard and made welterweight class. That was actually 2009 when I did North Americans that year. That I was like scary looking.
Right, because you competed. Well, you've lived in Michigan the whole time, so I remember because you were in. I'm from Ohio, so kind of in that region. I did a couple Michigan shows, and I remember you from that. I might have even seen you at a show, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, guys. So today we are going to talk about something a little bit different. So since that there's a big time lapse there between the last time in the IFBB, I think you were doing. Where is it? Chicago Pro, or was it Detroit? Right. Yeah, because remember you did Chicago Pros at 212 several times up until last year was the last one. Is that right?
Yeah, I did 5 years. I competed. I did 5 years in a row, and it was always the Chicago Pro because that's close. And I don't really like. The timing turned out. The timing works out good because it's beginning of summer, and that's just when I like to compete, in terms of my yearly cycle or whatever. And then proximity is always a factor for me too. I'm not a big fan of flying to compete and everything that entails. So being able to drive was a big plus for me.
And I would imagine you're probably able to drive to Masters Nationals that year that you turned pro too, since that's in what was it? Pittsburgh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Yep. I did junior nationals like 5 times, and junior nationals is in Chicago, so I could drive there. Actually, the year that I won, I was living in California, so I had to fly that year. So it worked out okay though. I won, and then I was like, okay, I got to do something else. Move up to a different show other than junior nationals, and then the next year they had Masters Nationals 35 plus, and so I said, hey. And it was actually my birthday. I turned 35 on the day of the show. So I qualified to compete in that division. So that's what I did.
That was the legendary post-show interview with Dave Palumbo. Yeah. Right. Probably one of the best pro card winning interviews around, at least as far as you could definitely see the passion in that interview. It's an awesome one. And I have it saved on my computer, actually. I know. weird. That's rude and stalkerish, but hey, it's,
No, strange
I've heard
that,
that
Austin,
from a
because I
bunch of
do as
people.
well. The one on YouTube simply titled Shelby Starnes interview.
yeah,
You
it's a
mentioned
good
being a
one.
bodybuilding monk. Yeah, that's something I revisit quite a lot, to be honest.
I've heard that from a bunch of different people. So apparently it's a good one. Thanks.
Yeah. So, topic today is, like I said, something a little bit different. We want to talk about, life after competing from somebody like, and you feel free to chime in, Shelby. I'm not going to speak for you entirely, but I know that I just assume that you're probably someone that's would never stray from the lifestyle, even though you're not necessarily competitive bodybuilding. You still are a bodybuilder. You still train. You still eat. You still do all those things probably pretty religiously, very routinely. Because I know you coach. That's primary source of income. And if you're like most of us, stay at home coaches, and we have pretty set routines. So now I imagine there are a lot of things that you have changed though. There's really no need to, there's a lot of things that we do that's probably not really necessary after a certain point in not competing anymore. Mainly just maintaining healthy hormone levels, health, maintaining blood markers. You're not really looking to gain size anymore, walk around at a comfortable weight. And I know that's different for everyone. Some of these guys that walk around at, 280, 300 pounds, they come down a lot. We see those really dramatic downsizings when they retire. Somebody like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I think Ben Pekulski recently, he was one that we saw, and he,
almost any legitimate IFBB pro that's kind of cartoonish on stage has that effect. I don't qualify as that. I was never cartoonish. So, but these guys, yeah, like Jake Cutler, obviously, doesn't look like he used to. Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, any of those guys, like the true legitimate pros, like guys that turned pros, or guys that turned pro in the 90s when it was like one pro card per show, just the overall. You're a genetic freak, and your response to training and supplementation and diet was gnarly. So, you looked like a cartoon character. And so as soon as you stop that stuff and don't pursue that anymore, you deflate. Tom Prince is another great example. Everyone always says, it's, the drugs are obviously doing that. And I'm not going to downplay the significance of supplementation. But clearly they're not pursuing the same thing anymore. They're not training how they used to. They're not eating how they used to. Everything's changed. They're probably actually trying to be smaller for health reasons. So, a lot of times, look at Get Big post. Oh, look, this is how he used to look, and this is how he looks now. Maybe he's got cancer now, or look how big of a role that growth hormone played, or whatever. It's like, well, that's not a fair assessment, because a whole bunch of stuff has changed.
Yeah. And there's other things too that we don't account for as far as just that volumize the body. When you're eating 6,000 to 8,000 calories and taking in, 50 to 80 IUs of insulin a day in the off season, you're going to be, you're going to be blown up.
Right.
So that, yeah. And a lot of that stuff, they're obviously not going to do that. I've read interviews from guys that were retired, and they just say how sick they are of eating so much food, especially the guys that were that larger scale. And they talk like, hey, now I eat 2 to 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Where they do.
Dexter Jackson did that video recently about how much of a bitch it is to eat at the level that he has to. And he's not even considered the mass monster or whatever. But yeah,
Right.
it's the full-time eating is got to be the hardest part of being a professional bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And being a slave to it, because you can't really let up. If you're trying to improve, if you're trying to make improvements show to show, year to year, there's not really an off season.
Right.
If you have an off season, you're remaining in place.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Because you pretty much capped out genetically at that point. So every ounce of tissue that you gain, you have to be pretty much perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was never a real big guy, though. I mean, obviously, I turned pro at a Masters national show. I mean, that's, if this was 10 years earlier, I never would have turned pro. I never would have got past the national level. But, I played the cards right. I got the right opportunity. I turned pro at 212 show. I turned pro at Masters Nationals. And snuck into some pro shows. One time I actually got into the first call out at a pro show. I placed fourth one time. But I'm not your typical pro that's, balloony muscles like the guy that you do a double take at when you see him at the grocery store or whatever. So I was never the balloonish type large. So now that I'm not competing and not pursuing improvements in size and all that stuff, I really don't look drastically different because I was never drastically big to begin with. I'm trying to stay light and lean just for health and longevity reasons. My weight is really not far off from my competition weight, within 5 pounds now. But the composition over time, slowly changes as the hormone levels are different, diet's different, training's different, all that stuff. So I can go into what I'm doing differently, or if you guys want to ask questions or however you want to approach it.
I'd love to hear what you're doing differently as far as first off, nutrition. I mean, I would imagine, at least from what I've read, experimented with some different stuff, maybe some fasting and just different, maybe things that you've wanted to try that you never really tried before because you had such a short off-season time window.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't really do full-on fasting. It's probably something I'll eventually experiment with. The one time I truly experimented with fasting for very long, my blood sugar was just getting too low and I felt terrible, like I couldn't function, like I couldn't do my job. And I was like, this isn't, I didn't want to continue, and I mean, it wasn't a matter of, just suck it up and get through it. It's like, I don't feel like I can do my job and do my clients justice if my brain's not functioning properly and I'm not feeling good. So I need to eat. So that didn't last. I started fasting in the morning and made it to the evening or whatever. And then I broke the fast. But nowadays I do, I guess, in intermittent fasting, my last meal is around 10 or so. And then I don't eat the next day until about 12, about noon or 1. About noon. So, I mean, that's 14 hours. That's a 14-hour fast. So I eat for the other 10 hours. And I'll just go through what I eat. And I would always compete around 200 pounds, upper 190s. And I just got on a scale the other day in the afternoon for a physical I was doing for hormone replacement. We can get into that later. But I got on a scale in the afternoon in my sweatpants and shirt, and I was 201 in the afternoon, after eating and drinking. So I'm upper 190s right now still. So I wake up at 6 or 7. I drink some warm lemon water. I start the day with that, and then I drink coffee, and I mix lion's mane and chocamine into that. We can talk about lion's mane in a bit. I think you mentioned wanting to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple cups of that in the morning. I do fasted cardio. I have a treadmill at home, and I just do 30 minutes walking, 3 miles an hour, no incline. It's just a real moderate activity, nothing too intense. And I listen to a podcast typically when I do that. And then my breakfast is, all my meals are kind of funny because I throw in a whole bunch of different things that I think help with health and longevity, because those are my main goals now. I should start with that. My goals are being healthy and having longevity. I really don't care about muscle size, looking like a bodybuilder. Obviously, for vanity reasons, I don't want to look like a slob. But being lighter and leaner is my goal. So breakfast is one whole egg, and we get Amish free-range cage-free eggs at my gym. A guy that has chickens brings them in, sells them at the gym. It's pretty cool. So I can always get fresh pasture raised eggs at the gym all the time. So just one whole egg, some additional egg whites, half a cup, some spinach, some avocado, some coconut oil, some fresh garlic, and I have that with a bit of pomegranate juice. Pomegranate juice has been shown to help fight atherosclerosis. And obviously, those are a bunch of healthy fats in the breakfast: avocado, coconut, pasture-raised eggs. And I have one whole apple with that meal as well. Eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. And then, so I have that. That's my breakfast. And I have all my health-related supplements. Upon waking, rewind 5 hours. Because I fast for I'm up for about 5 hours before I eat meal one. Get up at 6:30 or 7 and eat it at 12. First thing upon waking, I have lion's mane, the mushroom extract, Life Extension Super Bio Curcumin, 2 caps of that. I think they're 400 each, and 5 milligrams of lithium orotate. And we'll talk about lithium orotate later. Austin, you and I have discussed this a bit offline. And then I have 2 shakes later in the day, and the shakes are, I'm trending towards less protein. It's hard for me to be quite as low as I think is optimal for longevity because I need to eat something, and I tend to opt for protein because I'm a little bit of a carb phobe right now. And so each protein shake is just a little bit of fruit. I do mixed fruit, I do organic fruit, blueberries, peaches, strawberries, mango, like half cup of mixed fruit, 1 scoop of oats, which is, I use a protein scoop for oats. It works out real convenient. It's about 15 grams of carbohydrate, a little bit less than a quarter cup. 1 scoop of protein. And right now I use the Team Skip blend from True Nutrition, which is a whey, casein, egg white blend. But starting next month, I'm going to try using a vegan blend for at least one of the shakes, which is a rice, protein, hemp, protein, and gamma pea mix. So just 1 scoop.
Real quick on you before you go on to something else. Have you tried their cricket protein yet?
I have not tried the cricket protein.
I was just curious because I haven't tried it.
I have some cognitive dissonance there.
True Nutrition has it.
Yeah, I remember seeing Dante post about it, but I don't know. I didn't know if he ever got it out. Interestingly, I did eat. I'm
pretty sure he has it out
the other day, and they were quite nice.
Okay, yeah. So, go ahead, Joe. What'd you say? You tried them?
I actually ate. I ate whole crickets not long ago at a local restaurant, and they tasted. I'm not sure what they were, to be honest. They came out quite dark brown. And they were very expensive, I remember that. And they honestly just tasted like burnt toast.
In the UK?
Yeah, in the UK. In a local
what kind of
steak
restaurant?
place. It was a steak place, but it's kind of an exotic meat place. So they had like crocodile steak, they had a llama steak. What other meat did they have? Zebra. Just these strange.
I love the British and Australian pronunciation.
The zebra?
We say zebra. We say zebra. We say it wrong. We say zebra. I know the proper pronunciation is zebra, but it cracks me up.
But yeah, the crickets were a bit disappointing.
Before. I've eaten in Thailand. It's or Cambodia. I'm sorry, but they're in Thailand as well. Southeast Asia in general. Water bugs, crickets. even eat tarantulas and big, huge fried spiders. I didn't get to that level.
But
I'm
you ate
novice.
crickets.
I'm like a white belt. I've eaten crickets.
What did you think?
They salted them and they were fried, so it just kind of tasted like a snack that you'd eat while watching football or something, like potato chip or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they did these crickets. They just tasted like burnt toast. There wasn't any seasoning or anything. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, because they were like 20 quid and I only ate 3 of them and I thought these are shit, so I didn't finish them.
Yeah. I don't have to eat cricket protein. Like, we're not at that point of society. Like, we're not. So I'm sticking to the other stuff for now. But I am going to try the vegan protein out. But I just do one. So each meal I eat is only maybe 30-35 grams of protein.
Gotcha.
So the shakes have 1 scoop of protein, 1 scoop of oats, half cup of organic fruit, mixed fruit, a dollop of organic Greek yogurt from Costco, some milled flax seeds, cinnamon, and someone sent me some colostrum. I've got bovine colostrum, some powder right now, so I put a little bit of that in it. I mix all these weird things that, my meals are complicated. They take a while. And then the meal that I just ate, my dinner meal, is a whole bunch of vegetables, a huge bowl of vegetables, bell pepper, green beans, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. And then I have maybe 4 ounces of fish, like shrimp, cod, and maybe a little bit of chicken breast, but only about 4 ounces. And I put kimchi on that. I love kimchi. Obviously has a lot of health benefits. Extra virgin olive oil, fresh garlic. And then my last meal is some salmon, some kale, a little bit of chicken. Again, the meat is only about 3 or 4 ounces total. Some hummus, a dollop. A dollop is a new measure that I've created. I think it's about 2 tablespoons. Some curry, and then I always have a Quest bar. I've got a little bit of a sweet tooth, and I can't just eat fruit and vegetables and fish. I live in a first world country, and I was raised on better stuff than that. So I always finish with some sort of sweet, like a Quest bar. Have you guys had those? Joe, you probably haven't, but Austin, you might have the Costco brand protein bars, which are high fiber, similar to a Quest bar.
You know what? I haven't, but one of my clients bought a box. He said that the macros and all that are actually pretty close to the same. So I'm gonna have to give it a try.
They're really good. I have 2 a day.
The only bars I really see
and
over
honestly,
here are the old. I don't know if you guys get these. They're called carb killers. They're the real popular thing over here. A lot of the bikini girls do a lot of videos of eating them, putting them in a microwave and whatnot.
What are they? Are they another high fiber? Are they like Quest bars?
I really doubt they're high fiber. I think they're just a kind of moderate protein for a bar, probably moderate carbohydrate, all from sugar. I doubt there's any fiber in it.
Oh.
Are they
Quest,
Grenade?
They are. Yeah, they're made by Grenade. Yeah.
Grenade. Okay.
They're the nuts over here that everybody likes and posts about. I'm not really up to scratch on that. Jasmine would know. She likes that stuff, but I don't.
These are they're very high fiber. I mean, I think they're at least 14 grams fiber each, and they are sweet, but they use an artificial sweetener, which I'm okay with. I have to diet at some point, but they keep me extremely regular. Like it's like clockwork, and so I enjoy that. Obviously, they're a nice, tasty treat, but the high fiber content is very much appreciated too. I'm sure all the vegetables and fruit I eat doesn't hurt, and I also take psyllium husk twice a day, but the bars definitely give it a boost. So that's the diet stuff. I do the cardio every day I do the 30 minutes on my treadmill, and then I only weight train 3 days a week now. I do like a push-pull leg split, pretty standard, chest, shoulders, triceps on Monday, back and biceps on Wednesday, legs on Friday. Then I take the weekend off. So 3 weight training days. And then, so that's 4 off days. 3 of those 4 off days, I go to the gym in the afternoon and do HIIT cardio. So some sprint intervals, usually on an elliptical or bike. And then one day I take the afternoon off, the day after legs, typically. So I'm doing a lot of activity, but it's shifted way more towards cardio than it is weight training. And weight training, it's sort of a mix of mountain dog principles and just some other stuff that I've done over the years. I competed for 13 years in a row. I trained with Dante. I trained with, Phil Hernan, John Meadows, Jordan Peters, a lot of different styles I was exposed to. So I will pull different things from different styles as I see fit during training, but I'm not about lifting maximum weights or anything like that anymore. It's just more of a health thing, and it's a social thing, because Austin, I'm sure, well, you have a gym, but if you didn't have the gym, I'm sure you would realize you're home all the time. You're coaching, you're on the computer all the time. You got to do something to get out of the house. So for me, the weight training, I have a training partners. It's a good social thing for me.
Yeah, because you train with Scott a lot and Bill, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, Bill's my main training partner. Scott, I trained with last week. He took a hiatus for a while. I didn't see him for probably since when I competed last summer. And VJ, the other host of Bodybuilding Nerds Radio. Right now, I train solo on Monday, and then Wednesday and Friday is usually with Bill Toko, skateboarding pro, 1987 NSA skateboarding champion. But yeah, Scott, I think is going to start coming back on Wednesdays, which is good. I like seeing Scott, hanging out with him a bit. So, but I'm trying to. Honestly, I'm 200 pounds now. I would like to get even lighter, but it's hard to get lighter because, I've been this weight forever. There's some legitimacy to that set point theory. Plus, I would have to lose muscle to get smaller. I'm not carrying a lot of body fat. So it's just something that will happen over time as I get older. I'm 40 now. As I get older, the years pass and I'm not training and eating the same. It'll just slowly dissipate. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, especially if I'm still training relatively hard, 3 times a week. So.
Yeah. And like you said, as long as your health is where you want it to be, it's, there's a lot of things to consider health-wise. A lot of stuff because people, I think the main thing is people they get their blood work done, they get their metabolic panel and their, and their lipids and their liver and their kidneys and all those things. But going past that stuff, now that you're 40, have you looked into stuff like actually, getting like calcium scoring and having heart scans and anything to that level yet?
I have not done a calcium score yet. I'm potentially looking into it. My C-reactive protein is always super low. Not that that's necessarily an indicator of calcium, but I would maybe be a little bit surprised to see a lot of plaque buildup with a very low CRP score. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I would agree because I think it's safe to say at this point, with what we know, that inflammation is pretty much contributor to all diseases. So
right.
And
I've never seen a C-reactive protein. The highest I think I've seen it is like 0.8.
Yeah.
And
So that's
that was like on a heavy pre-contest or off-season cycle or something. So, I mean, my guess is I'm probably okay, but it's, never hurts to check that stuff. I did an echocardiogram and there's an EKG a couple of years ago, and everything was fine. Doctor was like, "You've got some slight enlargement, typical of an athlete, but nothing, nothing scary at all. Come back and see me in 5 or 10 years or whatever." So I was fine there. And after the show, I was kind of doing my own HRT deal and monitoring stuff myself. I'm someone that's always done blood work at least 2 or 3 times a year and at least has a rudimentary knowledge of what I'm looking at. And I got blood work done maybe 4 weeks post-show, and everything was looking great. I've never been one to have great HDL. I've never seen HDL over 40. The UK listeners will have to do some conversions. But I'm usually in the 30s if things are going okay. I've seen it lower than that if I'm doing something more IFBB pro related. But in the 30s is a good healthy cruising dose for me. LDL triglycerides are always under 100. LDL I can see it higher, but if I'm being healthy, everything's fine. Just a little, between 100 and 150 or whatever. Total cholesterol under 200. No issues there. Since I've stopped competing, AST and ALT are fine. GGT was always fine. GGT is a lot of people freak out about AST and ALT, and so I always ask to see GGT, which is another liver marker that's a little bit more indicative of true liver health than AST and ALT. AST and ALT can fluctuate a lot with training and other things going on. You're familiar with GGT, right, Austin?
Yeah. Joe, do you guys check that marker much?
I've never heard of it over here. Let me just Google if the gamma GT. Yeah.
Gamma something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you have a value that's like under 20, or under 4, I think under 40 or under 20 is fine.
Over here, we typically call that a liver fibrosis test. That's what I've referred some clients for, and that comes up on there.
Okay.
You know what's interesting though, because you've been a low carb keto guy for a long time, right?
Well, are you talking about me personally?
I know for a lot of shows and just in general, at least now that you're done competing, you've been kind of a higher fat guy. Is that correct or no?
Well, when I was competing, I hooked up with Dave Palumbo in 2009, and I kept Dave Palumbo as my diet coach from 2009 until I retired. So 8 years. And Dave is obviously a higher, or at least moderate to high fat guy. Not really a true keto guy, because protein was always at a high level. True keto is obviously more like 80-20 or whatever. But I always kept carbs in my diet, and even pre-contest, it just wouldn't be high levels. Maybe in the off season it would be 200 grams. And then when I started dieting pre-contest, we would keep carbs in at maybe 200 grams. And then periodically, or we would gradually lower them. We might get down to 150. And then we would throw in some days of zero carb diet. So maybe every other day you'd do zero carbs. You'd have 150 grams and then 150, 0, something like that. And then you'd throw in more zero carb days as you go. So that's how I would typically diet for myself pre-contest. Now, I just listed out my diet. I'm probably on a good healthy day, I'm probably around 100 grams of carbs, because I eat, right now it's 30 grams of carbs from oats. It's I don't know, maybe 50 grams of carbs from fruit. Actually maybe a little bit more than that. 75 grams of carbs from fruit, because I'll eat another apple or a pear at night, sometimes a kiwi. So it's not, I wouldn't call it keto. And I wouldn't necessarily call it high fat either, because I don't think my fat's even, I don't know if I even hit 75 grams of fat a day. It's certainly not low fat, but I don't know if 75 grams of fat for a 200-pound male really would qualify as high fat.
No, not really.
No, and protein, probably 200 to 250. So 200 to 250 protein, carbs 100. Sometimes I might get greedy and eat a little bit of extra carbs at night and might hit 150, 200, and fat 75. So, I mean, it's just a low-calorie diet, trying to err more on the side of choosing healthy foods, not high protein, because I don't think that's, any studies on longevity. There's no centenarians that are doing keto diets. Centenarians are people that lived 100 or longer. Centenarians are like people that are doing like pretty low protein diets, less than probably a gram per kilogram or less, and lots of vegetables and fruit and maybe some rice. I lost where I was at.
You know what? The main reason I asked actually was just something I've noticed with people that do handle keto diets well, or they just digest fats well, I should say. Because I mean, you've probably had clients that if you feed them fat, they just can't digest it. They're a mess. And
yeah, VJs like that. I tend to find that there's either people that respond. There's like people that process fat great and people that process carbs great. Like there's people talk about insulin sensitivity. I think there's fat sensitive people too. Like in a similar vein. It's obviously not related to insulin and glucose, but you keep fat in their diet and like everything's at a standstill. And then you pull fats out and it's like, oh, there you go. And there's other people that are almost the same with carbs. Keep carbs in their diet. It's like, oh, things are sluggish. Then you pull them out or at least lower them, and then you start seeing progress. So that's kind of the two groups of individuals, fat sensitive and carb sensitive.
That's something that I think can change over time as well. Have you noticed that with any clients, Shelby? Because I've noticed with clients that maybe didn't have much metabolic flexibility or adaptation to utilize different fuels for oxidation, are generally coming from a background of eating a single macronutrient through their childhood or their adolescence primarily, and it takes quite a long time to metabolically adapt to that macronutrient intake.
More insulin sensitive over time, and I've seen people, and Austin, maybe you can give your input as well, actually become more sensitive to insulin or carbohydrate, and be able to eat more carbs over time. Just dieting in general, low carb dieting, you're going to be able to handle more carbs. And as you add muscle, you can eat more carbs and have a positive, not negative effect. But the people that are fat sensitive, I've never really seen them like be able to become better at handling fat. It seems like they're just kind of like stuck in that zone. Would you agree with that, Austin?
Well, I think from like a partitioning standpoint, because we store fat intramuscularly too in triglyceride form. So it's kind of like storing glycogen, but I think there's two different things, like people that just don't metabolize fat well and like use it as a fuel source, and people that just don't digest it well and are literally, bloated and don't feel good. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be two different things. And I think what Joe's referring to somebody that it's kind of like the example I use is a food sensitivity. And I did this as a kid. I ate a lot of dairy. Like I was somebody that I would literally eat cheese off the block and and drink milk with it. And I had never had any problems, but now I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
So like it's the same with people that eat a single macronutrient, like they eat just all fat as a kid, just high fat. And so they literally have adapted their metabolism to just metabolize fat, and they're a really shitty carb metabolizer when they're an adult.
Have you ever seen someone that you would describe as more ectomorphic or higher activity level that was really good at processing fat?
Yeah, I would think of, I've had a few clients that just
or fat's better than carbs.
That's a good question. You know what? I actually have not really until recently, because normally if they're like that, they're normally glucose metabolizers, you know. And I had a girl recently and she's still a client of mine. She's actually a distance runner. She does marathons, triathlon, and you know, my first instinct with that is obviously she needs glucose, and we kind of talked about her diet, and I went through stuff, and she's a real strange one. She actually, I actually have her on a high fat diet and only very moderate carbs. I mean, she probably only takes in, I'd have to look, I think about 125 to 150 grams of carbs. And I'm talking, she's one of the ultra distance athletes. And she eats fat, man. It's like, and so instead of around training cycles, instead of doing, like, they do the glucose gels, you know, and stuff in the liquids and stuff during their distances, she'll do MCT oil. And it's interesting because you would think it's totally counterintuitive to what you would think as a distance runner, but that's really the only example. I mean, I don't think I have a ton of like super high metabolisms that just process fats well. If anything, they just process everything. I mean, you've probably had people like that they're eating like 150 grams of fat with 600 grams of carbs or something wild.
Yeah, I've got Jill Diorio, Jill Blondin.
Oh yeah.
And she can eat anything. I've got another figure gal, Tiffany, that I've posted a couple times. They can just eat anything. And Tiffany's eating a cheat meal every day right now. And she's 20 weeks out of her pro debut. She's 5'2", 130 pounds, and she's eating, I don't know, like 400 grams of carbs a day. And every night she has a cheat meal, which is like, I mean, a legitimate cheat meal, like, you know, wings and fries and garbage. And like every week she like adds 1 pound. Every week she adds 1 pound, and she's like more muscular and looks like she's 6 weeks out.
That's wild.
You got to wonder what the non-exercise activated thermogenesis some of these people are. I've got one girl like that, a girl that's 12 weeks out of a PCA athletic figure.
I think what he was saying is you got to wonder their NEAT level.
Yeah.
Exercise activity. Like, is she super active?
Oh, not really. I mean, she's a personal trainer, but like her metabolism, it's like it gets better as she eats. Like when she first started with me, she was smaller and softer and wasn't eating very much. And now she's eating, gosh, I would imagine she's eating at least 3 times as many calories as she was, if not more. And she's just adding, it's like everything she eats turns to muscle.
Yeah, man, that's just,
earlier she actually had a baby 10 months ago. That's another like crazy factor. She had a baby 10 months ago. But she, it just doesn't make sense. I lost my train of thought, but she's just a complete anomaly. Most people are obviously not like that, but it's a full-time job. She, as much as we make fun of it and say that we hate her and this and that, and we wish we could do that. I mean, think about it. Think about having to eat that much round the clock every day. Like, I don't know about you, but I've been there to the point where it's like, I look forward to eating less.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how it goes. Not often. Like, I haven't been in that situation many times, but a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, so I think we covered nutrition pretty well.
I was talking about blood work, and actually what happened over time. I was talking about doing my own HRT, and I was being very legitimate about it. I mean, we're talking about 100 milligrams a week I mean, like true HRT, trying to keep my test levels at a very normal level, 600 ng per DL, 600, 700 or whatever, which is about average for a 40-year-old male that's not being funky with anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, but I've like I mentioned, my HDL is something that I'm always got to keep an eye on. And so for a long time at post show, or I say long time, a couple months post show, I didn't use any AI. I didn't use any aromatase inhibitor. Probably weight with because I used aromatase inhibitor pre-contest, and it kind of has a lingering effect. So my test levels were 6, 7, 800, and my E2 estradiol was 30s, 40s, right around there. And then it started to creep up. I last competed in July 2017, and then by December I saw that my E2's starting to creep up, and I'm not running any AI. So I saw the E2 creep up to like 47 or something, which is still nothing crazy, but I see that it's trending up. So I'm like, I'll add in a low dose AI. I'll add in exemestane, romacin, just a very low dose, just 10 milligrams every 5th day, which is the same frequency that I was doing the 100, or I was actually doing 75 milligrams of testosterone, 75 milligrams of test every 5th day, which works out to about 100 a week. So every 5th day, I would add in that 10 milligrams of aromacin. And that's a very, very low dose.
Sure.
But I thought, hey, maybe that's enough to bring the E2 down. And I also added in DIM, D-I-M, the over-the-counter estrogen support. And then I checked a month later, and my E2 had only come down 4 points. So like 47 to 43, like that. But my lipids were seeing some negatives. My HDL was up, my LDL was up like 30 or 40 points. My cholesterol was up at least 20 points. My HDL was down a few points. So in my mind, I'm like, well, this is all because of adding in just that little bit of estrogen support. That's a pretty common link. Lowering estrogen can mess up your lipids. So I was like, oh gosh, that sucks. Dropped out the AI. I dropped out both DIM and the exemestane. And I said I would rather have slightly elevated E2, slightly elevated estradiol, and have better lipids. I would rather make that trade-off. I think that's a healthier trade-off. I'm okay with that. So I went 12 weeks. I waited 3 months, which is a long time, but I was like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And then I got rechecked just a couple weeks ago, and I didn't check my test or E2. I just wanted to look at my lipids, and my lipids were improving. They weren't back to where they were, but they were improving. So I'm like, oh, well, that's a good sign. Stay off the AI. And I'm having no side effects, or I'm not feeling anything like, I just feel regular, regular testosterone level, regular estrogen level. I don't have any symptoms of anything being awry. And then I talked to a friend of mine that runs a hormone replacement therapy clinic, because I looked at on the blood work that I just got done recently. I also noticed that my TSH is a little bit on the high end. Well, it is at the high end. It's at the very upper end of normal. Normal goes to like 4.5, and I'm right there. And so I asked my friend, I said, hey, where do you guys like to see these? Where do you like to see TSH at like an optimal level? Like, what's good? Like, where would you want to see it? He said 1.0. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm 4.5. I was like, is that something that like maybe you can help me out with? is this something that I can get scripted or whatever? And he's like, yeah, let's do this. And this is a company that I have been sending clients to for years. I've just never used them myself. He said, let's do full blood work. Let's do everything, do this right. So a week after, I did my own blood work myself, just a regular basic panel. And then a week later, through his company, I do another panel, but this one's a little bit more extensive, covers test and estrogen, IGF, etc. And I get that back, and lo and behold, my testosterone is, and remember, this is 1 day before my next shot. So this is 4 days after a shot. So this is about as low as it'll get. Test shot. My testosterone is 350 and my estrogen is 415.
What?
So yeah, my estrogen is higher than my test. I'm basically transgender.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, is that, what did they say though? Is it like a false positive or no?
No, actually it's a pretty legitimate, that's actually a fairly, I mean, my friend said I've seen it way higher. He's like, I've seen estradiol at 3,000 for guys will compete, come off, post show, not running AI, and then 48 weeks later get it tested. And he said he's seen estradiol levels at 3,000. It's not common, but he's seen it. But I mean, estradiol can really fluctuate and spike like that. Obviously, me being off an AI for 12 weeks or whatever it was, I mean, obviously I didn't right to 400 right after I stopped the AI, but it got up to there over time. But I had zero symptoms. I mean, I'm not a person that's prone to gyno. I had nothing that said you have higher estrogen levels right now than your testosterone levels. But obviously that's not a healthy place to be at all.
Right.
Which points, I mean, that really points to people needing to do blood work. A lot of guys are walking around saying, I don't have any side effects. Well, you don't know. You don't know, you're guessing. And that can be very unhealthy. I mean, estradiol is obviously, high estrogen is obviously not something that's going to kill you overnight. You're not going to get a blood clot and die of an estrogen spike, but over time, high estrogen is very unhealthy. It can have a lot of negative health ramifications. But anyways, and my TSH was on the high end. I'm giving everything over to the HRT clinic, and we'll be doing. I actually just got it today. We're going to do a short reboot where there's no exogenous testosterone at all, and we're going to try and use some HCG and Clomid. I'm on anastrozole, Arimidex. Taking that daily right now, and then hopefully get it down to a lower dose after a bit. I'm on Armour Thyroid for the thyroid, and then after this HCG Clomid run, which will be about a month, I will switch over to doing test cream, a compounded testosterone cream. So not an injection, not a pellet, not androgel, but an actual cream that you use. And I know the guy that my friend with the HRT clinic, he himself uses the cream, and he says he tests regularly around 1,000 to 1,200 ng per DL. So that, I mean, it's not a dainty, ineffective HRT thing. This is the cream is very effective. So I'm looking forward to starting that, and we'll continue monitoring my blood work, but getting my testosterone back to a reasonable level. I'm not trying to cheat the system and do anything crazy. I'm not competing anymore. Like I mentioned, it's all about health and longevity now, but use the test cream to get me back to a healthy, optimal level use the estrogen support to get my estrogen under control, and use the thyroid to get my TSH in a better place. So ideally I should see some, I should see some good results. Yeah, you're right. Like I'm increasing my metabolism, increasing my test, and lowering my estrogen. But if you can ask my training partner, he's surprised in the gym all the time how my strength has held up post show, and I'm showing no major signs of being retired for this body weight. Normally in the off season I would be heavier and lifting more weight, but given this body weight, contest body weight, my strength is not really down at all. And when I found out those results on last Friday, we went to train legs, and at the beginning of the workout I said, Bill, just so you know, going into this workout, my estrogen is 415 and my test is 350. So he better be stronger than me, because I'm running on estrogen right now.
That water retention gives you extra leverage, though.
I'm not holding, like, I don't show any signs of like higher estrogen though. Like, I don't look bad.
So the cream's interesting, because I have clients that use it and stuff. One of the biggest turnoffs is a lot of people have a hard time getting it from a compounding pharmacy, and Androgel name brand it's just like stupid expensive compared to injectable. Because the injectables, you can get a generic. I know it's like, with even just not very good insurance, like $10 a month, $20 a month. So whereas the gel is just a lot more expensive. But I know that people do seem to have more stable blood levels with it because you apply it every day. So that,
I'm sure you've seen people talk about subcutaneous testosterone injection and how great that is. A lot of people in the professional muscle forum are talking about that now, doing like, I think 10 or 15 milligrams of, it's a testosterone enanthate or cypionate, whatever, in an oil, but they're shooting it subcutaneous. So like an insulin needle, but it's just a small poke and it's daily. And they're saying, obviously more steady blood levels because it's daily instead of every 5 days or 7 days or 14 or whatever. But they're also, because of that stability, their estrogen levels are very low.
Right.
They're saying I either need to use zero AI or I'm able to reduce the amount a lot. So that's obviously sounds appealing to me as well. And I think doing the cream is going to be similar to doing a sub-Q shot in terms of the stability anyways.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, I've had a couple older clients that they do, that's just all their doctor had. They didn't even really have the choice to do injectable. And they had I think it was Androgel brand, but they had always had really super stable blood levels, no big estrogen spikes. Everything was always good. So, that's a positive. And then supplement like this, over-the-counter supplements and stuff. So I know there's a few things that you've talked about on Facebook and a couple things that we've talked about, you and I, mainly the lithium.
Yeah, let's talk about lion's mane first. Lion's mane is one. I don't remember where I first came across lion's mane. It was either an ingredient to Arc Reactor, the pre-workout for Granite supplements. Just by the way, that's the best pre-workout I've ever used. If anyone is thinking about trying it, hands down the best pre-workout I've ever used. Have you guys tried it?
I haven't. I don't know why I haven't. Well, I'm trying to think of what I used of theirs though. Man, they have a pretty diverse line, and I can't remember what it was that I used.
You tried it, Joe?
I haven't tried it. I've been meaning to, because I keep hearing Luke Sando sponsored by them over here, and I keep meaning to pick some up, but I haven't managed to yet. But I have looked at the profile, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's obviously the profile is great, and it plays out in the gym. It's an awesome one. I highly recommend it. So I heard about lion's mane. I either heard about lion's mane from first either from John or Tim Ferriss. You guys are probably familiar with Tim Ferriss's podcast or maybe his books, 4 Hour Work Week, 4 Hour Body, 4 Hour Chef. Real popular guy right now. And his podcast is sponsored by Four Sigmatic. And Four Sigmatic is a company that makes instant coffee mushroom blends, different mushrooms, chaga, cordyceps. Lion's mane is one of them. So he was talking about lion's mane on his podcast. And so I see these two different people that I respect, that are smarter than me, that I learn from. Hey, maybe I should check this out. So I do some research on lion's mane. And then I look on Amazon, and one of my favorite ways to review or research stuff now is to read Amazon reviews. Like that's just Amazon is a site that is just nuts, and the review section is great. If you want to learn about a supplement and how get real feedback from tons of people. Look it up on Amazon and read the reviews, and you'll get a pretty good feel for it. So anyways, that's what I do with lion's mane. And then Joe Rogan interviewed Paul Stamets. Paul Stamets is probably one of, if not the most popular mycologists, mycology being the study of mushrooms, mycelium. And Paul Stamets is, incidentally, I met Paul 20 years ago when I was living in Olympia, Washington, in a cabin in the woods and foraging mushrooms myself because I was a weird, crazy, wild hippie kid. I met Paul then 20 years ago. But anyways, he's got this brand now, Host Defense, based on lion's mane. He talks about lion's mane on this 3-hour podcast with Joe Rogan, and how it's neuroprotective, neurodegenerative, protect against Alzheimer's, and create new nerve tissue. So I finally said, okay, I'm going to order some. So I buy it on Amazon Prime, get it 2 minutes later, ingest 2 caps on a Sunday afternoon. I ingest 2 caps, and by the evening, I felt noticeably different, way more positive mood, more pro-social, just clearer thinking. And then I ended up having better sleep that night. I woke up without having any morning brain fog, and it continued. And so I'm like, wow, this stuff is magical. So I just kept researching it, and then I would suggest it to other people. I'm like, hey, is this just me? Am I making shit up? Placebo effect? So I suggest it to other people, and they start trying it, and they're like, holy shit, this is nuts. I can't believe I feel so much better. No morning fog. It seems there have been a couple, there are non-responders. There are some people that don't notice much from it. In those people, I still think it has the neurodegenerative, neuroprotective effects, but they might not notice the positives as much. I think the people that notice the positives more are people that are maybe a little bit more prone to brain fog, prone to depression, prone to anxiety, anything like that. So lion's mane is one that's in the arsenal for sure now, and I recommend it to anyone that thinks they might benefit from it, that has any brain fog or depressive issues. It's Host Defense brand. I take 2 caps upon waking daily, and then I also have the powder, OM brand. It makes a powder, and I mix that in with my coffee a few times a day, just like half or a third scoop comes with a scoop. So that's a big one. I'm getting big into the nootropics, however you want to pronounce it. Anything that can help thinking.
You mentioned your coffee mix. You mix the chocomine too, right?
Yeah, chocomine is something that I've been using for years. I found chocomine in 2005 or something like that. No, probably 2003. Anyways, for my first contest prep, I used Chocomine religiously in my coffee. I don't know if you remember, might be before your time, but Animals Board, where Dante's Cycles for Pennies originated.
Vaguely. Vaguely.
Yeah, very, very. I mean, this is a long time ago. Early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Anyways, that's where I first heard about Chocomine. Chocomine is basically processed cocoa. You know, you're removing basically all the calories, carbohydrate, and fat. So you're getting down to just the cocoa constituents. So it's very high in theobromine, high in polyphenols, probably some theanine in there, theophylline. I'm thinking of all these TH words, and a lot of antioxidants. Do you use it, Austin?
Yeah, well, it's the reason I mention is because the days I don't train, I normally don't really do any stimulants on those days other than just pretty low. You know, my stimulant comes from my morning is I'll do a decaf coffee and I put Chocomine and lion's mane in it. So that's exactly what it is. The Chocomine tastes good too because it's cocoa-y, and the lion's mane, honestly, you can't even tell that it's in there.
Well,
really,
where do you get your lion's mane?
I can tell you the brand. I'll look at it right here, but I mentioned the Chocomine too because there's two things that I still use to this day that I actually, one of them was an article I read that was yours, that was really old. I started using Chocomine and nicotine gum because of you. both of those things. So, because I asked you about,
so I'm a good influence and a bad influence.
Yeah. So now, yeah. Well, luckily I don't smoke. I'm not hooked on nicotine. It's just a very sporadic use. But this is wildfood.co, and they have like a whole line of mushrooms. They have the Cryptosips and pretty much all the different variations. But I mean, that's the only brand that I've tried, so I haven't really branched out anymore.
Amazon?
Yeah, they have. I think they're primarily powder versions. They have single ingredients of each, and then they have blended. They have
you ordered it off Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I've seen it. It's like at the bottom, they list all the other brands, when you're scrolling.
Right. But
Joe, have you tried Chocomine or lion's mane?
I've never tried Chocomine, although I know that My Protein have started doing it, and I remember seeing a post from you, Austin, a while ago. So I think about buying it. I've actually got some Swanson brand lion's mane 500 milligram caps here that I've never used, and I always want to, but I'm always neurotic about thinking, is this mushroom going to break my fast? Because I'm fasting at the minute. And I'm always like, I've taken this growth hormone. Is this mushroom going to affect some free fatty acid mobilization? Then I think I'll take it later. And then it gets to later, and I think I don't need to think about anything anymore, so I won't take it now. And every day seems to compound like that, and I never end up taking it.
That's
one, that's funny, and two, you got to take it.
Dude, you got to think though, with these herbs that they're using extracts from the herbs anyhow. It's not like you're eating. A lot of the time they're using concentrated stuff. I mean, 500. A gram maybe, so it's not like it has any caloric value.
Well, even a mushroom is so insanely low, and I mean the sugar content of a mushroom is very, very low.
It makes no logical sense, but for some reason something stops me. It's that.
Are you getting ready for something now?
No, I'm just running a bit of a harsh mini cut, but I'm just extremely neurotic, I guess.
Honestly, I think it would benefit. I think it would only benefit you.
Yeah? I'll tell you what, I'll do tomorrow.
It would help.
I'll start tomorrow and
I'll
let
let
you know how I like it.
and let us know.
For sure, I will do.
So the
And then
other, go
the
ahead.
other one's lithium orotate, and lithium's an interesting one. It's one I definitely heard about Tim Ferriss talking about because Tim uses it. He said he started it recently, and he's never gone real in depth on it. He doesn't talk about how much he uses or anything like that. He'll just mention it. He's mentioned it in passing a couple times. And so I'm like, okay, what is this? And I must have run across someone else because it usually takes me 2 people to start researching something. And then I start researching it, and lithium orotate. And for the listeners, you know, me myself, I have this cognitive. You know, when I think of lithium, I think of crazy people, and you know, like for people like a psychotic drug, and that's what a lot of people have the connotation of, and that's lithium carbonate. Lithium carbonate is kind of totally different from lithium orotate. I mean, they have a similar mood stabilization effect, but after that, it's kind of like apples and oranges. But lithium, if you start doing the research, and there's lots of articles online, lithium orotate is spelled O-R-O-T-A-T-E. Lithium orotate is being used by a lot of like biohackers now. And it's another one like lion's mane that's neurogenerative, neuroprotective, you know, protects against cognitive decline, can protect against Alzheimer's, has a whole bunch of other health benefits, just like lion's mane, like maybe has like blood glucose stabilization effects, does a lot of cool stuff. But lithium carbonate, the one that's prescribed for people with bipolar or schizophrenia, anything like that, is used in high amounts, like maybe 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 milligrams. Lithium orotate comes in a 5 milligram pill. So we're talking about, I mean, orders, you know, level, many orders less of a dose. 5 milligrams as compared to 1,500 or 2,000. And lithium is actually a mineral or metal that's probably been around since the Big Bang. Lithium is found, like if you've eaten a few meals today, you've already probably consumed a low dose of lithium. It's in the soil, and it's in our water in different levels, different municipalities. You know, there's studies that have been done on different towns, countries, cities, municipalities that have different levels of lithium in the water, and those that have the highest levels of lithium have the lowest level of depression, suicide, violent crime, etc. So you can take this lithium orotate, and lithium orotate is available. I mean, you can go to pretty much any health food store, vitamin shop. A bottle of 60 caps that are 5 milligrams each is going to cost you probably $6 or $7.
Yeah.
Or you can order on Amazon for about the same price. And I started taking that, and I was hesitant because, I mean, it's lithium. And, like, you know, you've got this cognitive bias, like, oh, my God, it's lithium. So I bought it, and I was like, it's only $6. I'm going to buy it and just hold on to it. And finally, I broke into it, and I'm taking – and plus, I had just started the lion's mane. So I'm like, how many factors am I going to throw in at the same time? Let's wait a bit. So anyways, I finally started it, and I just started with 5 milligrams each morning. And I don't think I really noticed much of anything. And then I went to 5 milligrams morning, 5 milligrams in the afternoon, and maybe I noticed a slight effect. And then we can get into this in a minute, but I finally bumped up to 15 milligrams daily, which is 5 in the morning and 10 milligrams in the afternoon. And I've been at that dose for about 5 days now, and it's like way better. I'm just like way more positive. My sleep is amazing. The effect on sleep is just nuts. Deep sleep, very vivid dreams. Like I must be getting a lot of good REM sleep. Sleep is very deep and seems to be restorative. And mood is just great. Now I'm someone that is probably a little bit inclined to depression just genetically. It runs in my family. I have a sibling that's been diagnosed with bipolar. I don't think I've ever been someone that's been like drastically handicapped by depression or anything like that, but it runs in my family. I'm sure I have, at least some percentage of depression in me. So I might respond better to it than someone that's, has nothing like that going on for them at all. But I've suggested it to a couple other people. And if they're not noticing the improvements in mood, they're definitely noticing the improvements in sleep. Now, segue, Austin, you're the guy that helped me learn about a little bit higher dosing. We were talking about it recently, and it was actually, you said Dr. Serrano that you talked to it about. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to it?
Yeah.
Why Dr. Serrano suggested it and what your experience is?
Yeah, sure. So I have a long history of depression and mood disorders. And I had various experiences with medications and things. And lithium wasn't one that actually was prescribed, but it was one that they had talked about when I was probably around 17 or 18. They had talked about using it for mood stabilization.
Carbonate, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I knew enough at the time. I didn't know a lot, but I knew enough that I just heard too many bad things. So, I was trying to get away from the pharmaceutical side of things at that point, so I never did it. But fast forward, I meeting with Dr. Serrano I've been going to him for about six or 7 years. And we got on a discussion one day about just some nutrient deficiencies. And one thing that he does, he does a lot of things really well, but one thing that he does really, really well is that if you talk about symptoms, he's very good at going through the steps of metabolization, like vitamins and minerals, and showing you, this converts to this, and this metabolizes this, and this enzymatic, so we kind of traced it back, and with my mood and stuff, and we suspected lithium deficiency, which had made sense from previous diagnosis. So we talked about lithium orotate, and just told me, learned a little bit about the differences. The biggest thing with the carbonate that makes it so negative is, one, the dose is really high, like you said. And secondly, it builds in the system. So if you do take, 1,000 milligrams or whatever, it's going to build in your system. And if you have negative side effects, then you're kind of SOL until it clears out.
Right.
You can kind of use the comparison. You can think of like a long ester and a short ester compound. Right. It's the same deal. If you have side effects, you're kind of in deep trouble because you can't do anything about it. But the main thing I was appealing about the orotate is it doesn't build up. So like when you and I talked about the higher dose, I mean, I've had people go up to upwards of about 30 milligrams a day, and literally, if they don't have any benefit or if they didn't like it, then just stop, Right. So there's no real ramifications there. The main thing with this is that if you are lithium deficient, you have a hell of a lot better experience. Like you'll notice a lot. So someone like you might have a slight lithium deficiency.
Have you checked your lithium level?
Nope, we never checked it. Honestly, he mentioned checking it, but he kind of just told me to go ahead and try the orotate since it was so safe and easy and cheap.
My understanding is that like you won't see orotate change blood levels.
Well, and that's kind of what he alluded at too, is just because a couple things about the minerals too is that in the blood and where they store in the body. So like if you could find it, you might find it more in like certain tissues in the body versus just in your bloodstream. Gotcha. Kind of like what you would say if you checked your magnesium, for example, you might like what you have in your blood wouldn't necessarily be a good indication of your magnesium store in your body. So,
right.
But yeah, I never had any side effects. I started 5 morning, 5 evening, went up to 5 morning, 5 midday, 5 evening, and then kept bumping up the night dose. I got up to 30, I've settled at 5 in the morning and 10 in the evening. So pretty much what we talked about. And then that's where I stayed.
How long have you been doing that?
Let's see, about 6 months, I think. And,
Okay.
you know, there's, like I said, there's really no downside to it. And if you're deficient, it's only going to be beneficial. It's not something you have to like cycle on and off of.
Have you noticed the sleep improvements?
Yeah. I would say not necessarily length of sleep, because I tend to fall asleep pretty easily. It's just that the quality of sleep is a lot better. I have I don't wear it all the time, but I have like one of those little tracking devices that tracks your sleep or on your wrist, you know. So I've worn that just for shits and giggles to kind of see what it did. And I had about 1.5 to 2 hours more of REM sleep, which is like, that's a ton of difference, really.
I should say, I don't think it's increased the length of sleep for me. It's just the quality, but increasing the length of sleep is something that I'm being more cognizant of, just sleep hygiene in general, because that is another thing that I think people just greatly overlook. People think that you can just, make up for less sleep with some caffeine, and it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, if you're not getting adequate sleep, like, that's horrendous. Like, that's linked to cancer, diabetes, fat gain, like interfering with longevity in just so many ways, and just quality of life. Like, if you regularly get how much sleep you're supposed to, it's a game changer.
It's funny because last night or the night before, and not to go too far off on the sleep thing, but I'm laying there, like I just laid down to bed, and I'm thinking, I'm going through my sleep checklist, and it's gotten so excessive. Now but I sleep a lot better. I have blackout curtains. I have a 25-pound weighted blanket now. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. I have earplugs.
I made a post about that recently.
Oh, okay. So
I don't use one. But I've recommended it to a couple of people, and they love it. So yeah.
I've got that. I've got earplugs. I have eye covers, those little eye thing that covers your eyes so it's completely dark. Sometimes I do deep breathing and all kinds of stuff, but I fall asleep in like 3 seconds.
You're a sleep diva.
Yeah, it's just funny because I'm like, man, this is kind of excessive, but but hey, it works.
Yeah, I don't need that much, but my room is cool, which I think they say a cooler temperature is better for sleep quality. The lithium definitely helps, and there are no electronics in my room, and I make sure that there's no. I need some white noise. Me, like the dog gets kicked out. Like, sorry, but you got to go sleep somewhere else, because otherwise you're fucking up tomorrow. And tomorrow, fucking up tomorrow could fuck up a bunch of things. So like, it's just, you gotta keep your sleep time sacred.
Right. I agree.
You guys tried Delta sleep inducing peptide, talking about sleep. Have you given it a go?
No.
I've never have. The reason I haven't is because I know a lot of the peptide sites sell it. Is like, my fear of something like that is addiction, like addictive, and not that it's physically addictive, but psychologically addictive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
have you, Joe?
Yeah, well, I've only gone through one vial of it. There's 10 milligrams. Is it 10 milligrams? It's a 1 milligram serving. I used that over the course of about a month, just when I remember to take it every few days. And
it probably raised your blood sugar.
You think?
I'm just fucking with you because you wouldn't take the lion's name.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Oh God, no. Do you know what? I do wake up in the night at the minute and do a shot of growth as well. So that would fuck with my profile. But the only thing I noticed from it was these really bizarre, deep, lucid dreams. The most bizarre things you could imagine. But upon waking, it was like springing up from days of sleep. And I don't know if that's placebo effect or or what. I get really good sleep anyway. I've always been a good sleeper, and I sleep honestly between 8 and 9 hours a night anyway. But the dreams were the craziest thing. But the research, actually, the literature on it isn't that great in humans. It didn't really show much of a difference. In rats, there was a massive effect on REM sleep, but they did some research on like chronic insomniacs in humans, and the thing is, it was one of those survey studies, and they just noted like a perceived reduction of tiredness, if that means anything, when they did sleep. But
yeah,
you guys ever experiment with modafinil?
No.
Modafinil?
Yeah.
No, but I had because I know here in the U.S. a Adrifinil is still over the counter, I believe, and it's that is converts to modafinil in the body, if I'm not mistaken.
Modafinil.
You've tried that?
Over here.
I've tried it. I've tried it a couple times. And I had a past client that he was prescribed it, actually, modafinil, which I've never.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they prescribe it for. It's kind of ironic because they prescribe it for things like people that have sleep disorders and stuff to keep them awake during the day, which obviously I understand that, but it seems kind of ridiculous at the same time.
Right. Yeah. It's obviously not fixing. It's a complete Band-Aid. Hey, you got to function and you got to work and hopefully not be in a car accident. So take whatever you need to take.
But
Joe, you said it's not popular over there?
No, it's very popular. It's very popular over here.
Oh, it is popular.
Yeah.
It's probably easy to get, right?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get. I mean, like most things are over here, to be honest.
Have you ever taken, is it centrofoxine or centropic? Do you know what I'm talking about, Austin? Centrophenoxine?
Centrophenoxine. No, it doesn't.
It's one of the original nootropics. It's been around since the 50s.
Starts with a C, right?
Yes. CENTR or something. Centrophenoxine, I think is what it is.
Yep. It's if I remember correctly,
memory and focus.
Yeah. If I remember
Just
correctly,
ordered some of that.
a choline. It's a choline derivative or something, because I know choline is a big part of all the nootropic
Right.
stacks.
It's
But
it's not a Racetam, but it's paired well with Racetams.
right.
I ordered some just yesterday. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I've dabbled with some nootropics though. I've definitely dabbled with quite a few different ones, some stronger ones too, just because I was curious. But some of the stuff I wouldn't want to use all the time, and some of the stuff had some weird effects. Like you get into some of the Racetams or Racetams or however you want to pronounce it, and then you have to sack certain things, like you have to take choline with them because they deplete brain choline and you get nasty headaches and
Right.
so I mean but if you go online, if you go to like Reddit forums or something, there's some people do all kinds of crazy shit with nootropics.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not, man. Some people do. And some of those guys too, that whole world, like I got into that a little bit and did a lot of research on that side. And a lot of those guys are also like into all the psychedelic drugs and stuff, which is not appealing to me, but they're combining their Racetams with LSD and Adderall. So it's like, so it's like, okay, no thanks.
Well, a lot of those guys are into.
Well, there's actually
microdosing
there is
LSD.
some. Yeah, there is some legitimacy to microdosing that stuff. It's not something I've tried or am looking to experiment with anytime soon. But microdosing psilocybin is something that they're using now for like PTSD. That's something the
Very
government's
successfully as well. Yeah, that's what I was reading about a paper on that the other day. Really interesting. It's interesting as bodybuilders that we like to supercharge our physiology so much. Maybe it's going to lean towards supercharging our psychology as well. Maybe the two is the perfect sort of way to biohack yourself.
Right.
The marriage of those two.
I'll tell you, I don't know if either of you guys have used it, that I've just started to experiment with is CBD oil. So, because I know it's gotten some popularity, I'm trying to think, I did it in the gum version, like the actual chewing gum version, and in a oil version that you can, like essential oils that you can either put in a vaporizer in your house, or you can put it in, you can put it in like one of the vape pens or however you want to do it. But that's some pretty interesting stuff. Which I didn't realize. At first I thought it was just a hippie, it was a hippie type thing and kind of a fad thing. But I guess there's actually a really good U.S. patent on it from the FDA, which I had no idea. So that's one, you guys, if as far as like the anxiety stuff goes. I tried it out for a little bit and experience of a like you can feel it. You can definitely feel it if you use enough of it. It's interesting, but you don't feel. I mean, I wouldn't say I've never used marijuana, so I'm not really sure like how that feels exactly. But I mean, I've had surgeries and stuff, so I know what opiates and stuff feel like, pain medications and things, and it's not like that at all. But it's definitely a very soothing feeling. It's like instant meditation.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool stuff.
My training partner, Bill's real into it, and VJ I think is real into it. I haven't tried it yet.
It's cool because I think it takes a lot of the benefits and gets rid of the THC. Right. Gets rid of that component of it, because THC marijuana has a lot of benefits too. I think that's proven at this point, but there are some downsides to it.
Apologies guys, but we had to cut this episode here. Thank you so much for Shelby for coming on and talking us through everything involving life after competitive bodybuilding for himself with me and Austin. Next week we have Scott McNally coming on the show to discuss Advices Radio, his life as a bodybuilder and how he came to meet everybody that comes on Advices. If you guys have any questions that you'd like us to put forward to Scott next week, then either hit up the OPD group or get me at joejeffreyuk@gmail.com, or my Facebook or my Instagram, joejeffreyuk. All the links, social links to myself, Austin and Shelby will be included below, so please do have a look in there if you want to contact any of us about anything. Thank you so much for listening guys, and have a great week.